Brownie Sunday, wake up in the late afternoon. Call Rod Bloom just to see how he's doing. Yo, what's up, Rod? Hey, Chad, what's happening? You thinking what I'm thinking? Cleveland sports talk, man, it's happening.
Hey, welcome into the Brownie Sunday podcast. We don't put our testes in the C gap, but we do bring you some really good football content. We got to follow up with week one. Man, I was hoping I'd get some laughs from you guys. There's a silent on the other side. Thank you. Is Hard Knocks too far gone already? It's just old news already?
Oh, I don't know about that. I think the mood is just kind of really odd coming off of that game.
Yeah. I couldn't save it. I tried to start with humor. It's just you're right. It's just too weird. So, hey, I'm your host with my co-host Rod Bloom. I'm Chad Painter, and with us today is Sam Maddy. Sam is the Browns insider for Big Play. He joins us all the way from Louisville, Kentucky today. What's up, Sam?
Oh, nothing much. Thank you guys for letting me on here, and been looking forward to it all week, and was looking forward to this game all week, and I still feel the same even though we're at a tie. So,
man, yeah, that's the way to put it. Like, I came into the game not knowing how I was going to feel. I was pretty pumped, but also like really reserved. My emotions were all over the place, and now it's ended, and I'm still in that like limbo stage. I don't like it. I don't like the feeling. I mean, they didn't lose, but I don't like the way I feel right now. Let's roll into our first segment as usual, though, because before I got on the call with these guys, everybody was like, let's go grab a beer. So what are we drinking? We'll start with you, Sam. But first, man, before you're drinking right now, your Twitter says that you're a bourbon aficionado. What's your favorite bourbon?
So I am drinking bourbon.
Okay.
I always drink. Beer's not for everybody. Beer just kind of makes me feel full, and I'm one of those healthy guys that's always trying to watch their calories and all that stuff and trying to eat right. So I rather, just get straight to the point with some good bourbon and not try to fill up on some beer. But, hey, if you like beer, that's great. And, there's some great beers out there. No, I've got quite the collection of bourbon. And, being here in Louisville, Kentucky, we consider ourselves the bourbon capital of the world. Yeah. And what I'm drinking right now actually is a Michter's 10-year. It's done right here in Louisville. And I really, really like Michter's. So I would definitely say that Michter's or Willett would be at my top of the list. So, yeah. Okay,
I like Woodford Reserve. Do you have any of that at home?
Believe it or not, I don't. It's a little harsh for me. People will be like, "What are you talking about?" Like, because it's very famous and for the Derby and everything. And
yeah.
But no, there's so many other great bourbons out there. I feel like that's one of the most popular ones. So people just kind of clatch onto it or whatever. So, but no, Woodford's fine. It's just not for me.
Yeah, I've kind of stayed in my own bubble. I guess I haven't become an aficionado by any means in that category. But I like Woodford Reserve, or I'll get Knobs Creek and stuff like that at the bar. And I really like Highball with the ginger ale. I don't know if you've ever had that, or you think that is a terrible idea for bourbon or whatnot.
Each his own, man. Everybody just do what you want to do.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, that's what I'll be having very soon. Rod, what about you, man? I know you just grabbed something out of your fridge.
Yeah, I have to say, I kind of feel like with the bourbon talk, like Sam is kind of classing this show up just a bit. So it's first time we've really talked about anything other than beer and non-alcoholic drinks. We've had some waters. We've had some. Jeremy last week was drinking a smoothie with some protein powder.
It's always Jeremy.
So
Diet Coke, Jeremy.
The bourbon is just kind of a cool touch. So thanks for bringing that to the show. Me, I just went to the fridge, got home. I had to go out to watch the game, so I got home and we pretty much jumped right on here. So I always keep some miscellaneous beers out there for the occasion, and I grabbed a Genesee Brewhouse Orange Honey Cream Ale, and it says Pilot Batch on it. And I have to say, normally I look up the beer, try to know a little something about the brewery, the alcohol content, things like that. I don't know anything about this beer, but it tastes pretty good. So you can taste the orange and the honey in it, and it's just nice and smooth going down. I just kind of felt like after that game, I needed, I don't want it to sound like an alcoholic needed, but I just needed something to kind of calm things a little bit. So I just had to get something. So I feel like I made a pretty good choice.
This is definitely an occasion. So we have no judgment towards you right now, Rod.
That's good. Chad, you have something a little special today, don't you?
Yeah, I found the rare collection that people have been searching all over Cleveland for, the Joe Thomas Great Lakes. And I just finished it during the game. It's a Colch, and it is Joe Thomas in a can. It is crisp. It's refreshing. It's got just enough punch to become another Hall of Fame beer for Great Lakes. So very much enjoyed it. And I thought I wouldn't. I thought like it would just be the cool graphic, and it's kind of a souvenir kind of a thing. I thought Joe Thomas was going to go to all the Bud Light vending machines and like unlock them himself, just brute strength, and replace all the Bud Light with the Joe Thomas Great Lakes. That's what I was hoping for, and that they'd get the win, and that everybody would be like, whoa, we getting the Joe Thomas. That's why we haven't found it this whole time. That's why it's so rare. Joe Thomas has been keeping most of it to himself to put it in there, but we don't even get the Bud Light fridge this time. And, that rolls right into our reaction to the game. This isn't in our notes or anything, but I want to talk about the new left tackle, Desmond Harrison, really quick. What'd you guys think of him for his first game? Speaking of Joe Thomas, are we missing our, Hall of Fame left tackle after seeing game one?
I definitely think we are. He looked a little raw. He was making some mistakes, but I mean that's to be expected. So yeah, I mean it's hard to replace somebody like Joe Thomas. I think we can all agree with that. I mean he's a Hall of Famer. So one of the best to ever play the game. So yeah, no, definitely I think we missed him, but hopefully Harrison learns from today. He sure had enough, time, and he got a longer game than normal, and hopefully he takes advantage of that and moves forward. So,
yeah, you're not going to replace Joe Thomas. We know that. So we have to hope that Harrison is going to progress. I don't think anybody expect him to go out there and play a superb game in his first shot. He hadn't even really had all that many reps at left tackle. So all the false starts at the beginning of the game were pretty frustrating. It seemed like he settled down some after that. So hopefully, if they found a guy who can play pretty decent left tackle for him this year, and he looks pretty good, a few games in, I think it's a definite bonus. Finding him as an undrafted, I can't even think of the word now. I'm kind of shook up over the stupid game.
Yeah, he was undrafted. Yeah, he was undrafted.
Yeah, undrafted free agent. Yeah.
Yeah, played at Texas for a year. So, that he really came up as a high-level recruit, and then he couldn't stay there with some off-field issues and missed 2 or 3 years of ball. But, what everybody was saying about him in camp and practice and everything about his athleticism, I saw it. So I was like, this is really positive. The false starts were frustrating at the beginning for sure, and I am absolutely certain if I was at the game, I would have heard drunk Browns fans in the stands going absolutely bonkers at this guy for the false starts. But he did have the athleticism. He was following some really, really good defensive tackles around protecting Tyrod Taylor, and it's his first game in those conditions. Wearing number 69 like a goofball, it was okay for his first game, to be honest, on my side of things. But we came into this game 2-22 against the Steelers since 1999, and 1-18 in season openers since 1999. And I don't think we've ever had a tie like this. This is the first time with a tie, so we're still us and the Steelers still making history together. Unbelievable, right? And so.
Yeah.
That's such a weird record line for all of us. But moving on, we'll start with Sam first, then Rod. Who was your MVP on both sides of the ball? If you could give me one or kind of like a couple of guys on each side that you thought were MVPs and for their first game.
I really liked Landry on the offensive side. He had a lot of looks, and man, the way that he can adjust to the ball. A lot of Tyrod's throws were underthrown, or he had to make adjustments, or the receivers had to make adjustments. And, obviously the weather played a huge factor in that. But the way that Jarvis Landry can adjust is just unbelievable. So he would definitely be my MVP on the offensive side. I believe Demarius Randall, I think he did great on defense. First game out of Green Bay, and first time with the Browns, and first game in the dog pound. Like, I think he did phenomenal. So,
I have to agree that that Landry was probably, if you look at the stats and the actual game, he was probably the MVP on the offensive side. But for my money, the best player on the offensive side today was Josh Gordon with that touchdown grab. He also had 2 missed pass interference calls, the one in the end zone, that should have put the Browns down there for a score, and then the one late in the game. I think it was either late in the game or in the overtime, where he was absolutely just, tackled on that ball that was thrown closer to Landry. I don't know how many plays he played, but he looked like Josh Gordon to me, and I think that we're going to see some very positive things from Josh. The defensive side, and I got to go with Coes again. You got to glove the 2 picks, very athletic by Denzel Ward, and then, of course, Myles Garrett. It took a while. We didn't see, much from him at the beginning. Everybody's like, where's Myles Garrett? And then he gets his first sack, and then he has 2 forced fumbles after that. I haven't looked at the stat sheet. I don't know how many sacks he was credited with, but he was a force out there. Took him a little bit to get going, but if he keeps playing like that, and Denzel Ward keeps playing like that, and there were a number of other guys that played extremely well on the defense, you have to like where this defense and where the team is going.
Man, yeah, so that touchdown catch by Josh Gordon was a flash of brilliance for sure. And as they played the replay, I didn't know if he was in bounds or not. And then to see how he used his feet and his hands and his whole body at the same time, it was like, yeah, just an amazing grab for being out of the NFL for so long and being able to pull that in. I don't think he had enough stats and didn't get enough looks to be the MVP. But, man, that was nice. And what happened when we, marched down the field, we put a drive together, we get back up and tie this game 21-21. We're almost in field goal distance with, 30 seconds or so left on the clock. And we call a play. Was this a play with, what Jeremy was saying, where Todd Haley just tries to do too much? And he tried to force the ball to Josh Gordon through that interception. Why didn't we just run the ball one more time and then kick a field goal?
That's the question of the hour. That was probably the worst call of the game for the offense. I mean, why? That's not a ball Tyrod would normally even throw.
Yeah.
He protects the ball. He would normally just throw that ball away. Why he's going for, a touchdown there, I don't understand. You definitely either want to run it or just try to do a little, out pattern to Juice or to anybody else, Duke Johnson, get a few more yards and try the field goal. The pick, I'll never understand it. I'll never understand the playing call. I'll never understand why Tyrod threw that ball.
The play call was bad. The throw was bad. If you can see, it was definitely it was underthrown. If I'm gonna take up for Todd Haley at all, which I'm not, but if I had to make an excuse for him, it was a big time play. It was a big time moment. Who are you going to give it to? You're going to give it to your best receiver, and either hope for a pass interference call or he outjumps him and he makes a play. So that's the only thing that I can think of. But I'm with both of you all. There's just no excuse. We should have been a little bit more conservative, and we were in great position. We had the time, so we should have. That's definitely a coaching error.
Yeah, because then it became like deja vu. I think we were around the 43-yard line at that point, and then we go into overtime. We stop them. Their field goal. We don't stop them, but they miss their field goal. Then we drive down to the 43 again and botch our own field goal. And it's like, we should have just done this the right time the first time and kicked the ball around that area of the field. So anyway, that really made me jump out of my seat. There were other times of the game that made me jump out of my seat that I loved. So we'll go in the MVPs on my side. Man, I love the defense. Our defense looked stout for these conditions. Both teams looked really good on the defensive side, but I think the Browns really won out, forcing all the turnovers. I think it was 5 or 6 turnovers that we forced, and Myles Garrett has got to be the MVP. Even with that slow start, like you said, Rod, he made his promise where he shredded Ben Roethlisberger like he did in the Office parody. It was so fun to watch him just grab his arm and manhandle him. We've needed a guy like this for so long. And Denzel Ward had 2 picks in this game and looked nice. But for me on the offensive side, I agree with Sam. It's got to be Jarvis Landry. That dude is going to lead this team. He seems to be the most in sync with Tyrod Taylor. If Tyrod Taylor has an extensive play, a length of time that he's going to play and start for our team, I'm glad that Jarvis and him kind of click already game 1. So I love that. Lev Bell missed this game, obviously. James Conner went full Lev Bell on us and had like 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. Would you have rather played Lev Bell in this game, who had no training camp, no practice, probably isn't in football shape? What do you think, Sam, and then Rod?
It's crazy. I'm looking at the stats, and James Conner had over 180 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns, which is just unreal, especially coming in the position that, how easy is it to be like, well, do good. You're following up Le'Veon Bell. So I thought his performance was outstanding. I'm trying to get back to your question. Le'Veon. I'm not really bummed, because that's on Le'Veon. He's got his issues on what he wants to do and how he wants to handle this contract thing. He could have easily been there. We obviously saw it was a very competitive game, and obviously it looked like if I'm the Steelers, you go the cheaper route and you stick with James Conner, hoping that he doesn't get injured or anything like that. But no, I'm not disappointed that we didn't get to play Le'Veon Bell. So.
Yeah, I don't know that in the end that it would really have made any difference. I think if Bell plays, he's certainly not playing the whole game, and Connor's getting those other snaps. And I don't think that Le'Veon Bell is fumbling in that spot where Connor did, which turned out to be a huge play for the Browns. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Connor. He had an excellent game, and he's, 3rd-round draft pick, rookie. I mean, you can't expect the guy to be perfect out there. He played an excellent game, but I don't know if Le'Veon Bell taking some of those snaps really makes any difference to the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, they just really replaced him very easily this week, and I was going to start with I wrote my notes down hoping that the Browns would win, obviously. I kind of had that expectation, and then said, are we bummed that we didn't play the Steelers at full strength without Lev Bell? But then to see this guy, like you just said, have 180 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns, it's like they didn't miss a beat. It's so true how the Steelers team, this organization is set up. I think it was said that with Lev Bell, they averaged 25.3 points a game. And without Lev Bell, they average the same, 25.3 points a game. And so that's why they're not paying the guy, and they can plug a James Conner right in, a 3rd-round running back. And he has this kind of production on us, and we're supposed to be a very stout run defense. And he was really finding some holes. He was way better than Carlos Hyde, and I expected the opposite. I expected Carlos Hyde to have a somewhat similar stat line to this. So with that being said, what do you guys think of the running game of the Browns? This committee approach, Duke Johnson had kind of his own sleeve of plays built by Todd Haley, both some receiving plays and some running out of the backfield. Little bit of Nick Chubb sprinkled in there, and then they fed Hyde quite a bit, almost 20 attempts.
I like the committee approach that we've got. I really hope and expect Nick Chubb to get going at some point. I think Nick Chubb has, I predicted earlier before the season started that Nick Chubb ends up taking over the starting role by week 9. Hyde ran for 22 attempts for 62 yards. Nick Chubb ran 3 attempts for 21, and Duke had 5 for 17. I like the approach. Because I think it makes the defense think a lot. Obviously Chubb and Hyde run similar, but I don't really feel like we ever really, really got it going. So hopefully that's something that we can work on. And, I feel like that honestly is one of our strengths, especially being in the AFC North. I would love for our run game to be what we're known for again, being the Cleveland Browns. So.
Yeah, I think we saw enough, flashes. They weren't consistent enough with a running game. I think we saw enough flashes from both Hyde and Chubb out there. I don't think they really used Duke properly or enough times. And I know it's going to be tough to get the touches around to all of the playmakers, but I think I would like to see more plays where they have Duke out there with either Hyde or Chubb, so you don't know what's happening. They put Duke out there every once in a while, and he's getting the ball. So he wasn't very effective today. I think they can improve on that, but I'm with definitely with Sam on the Nick Chubb train. I don't know if he's going to take over, but I think his load is going to increase over the course of the season with Carlos, and it'll probably get to where they're either sharing equally, or if Nick Chubb shows enough, he may actually take some reps away, take more than 50% of the reps and be the primary back over Carlos.
I was really liking Carlos Hyde going into game one for fantasy, and then I was really pumped when they kept feeding Carlos Hyde. And even though he wouldn't get much yards, like they just kept feeding him because it was a rainy day. And I was kind of bummed about the end result. That touchdown kind of saved a fantasy day. But that was it. Like, it was, pulling teeth trying to see him burst forth. There were like 2 times where he really found the hole and got some burst. And I'm like, he's going long. And then he would like trip himself up or let himself get tackled by somebody that he really could have avoided. And it was just kind of a bummer. So I think you're right. I think Nick Chubb, he showed a couple times that quick burst that we all expected, that we've seen at Georgia, that we were kind of worried about because he was hesitant in the preseason a lot, especially the early games. And then you saw like the pop that he's got when he finds a hole. And I kind of like that he changed his number from 31 to 24. He won't get that Jamal Lewis, parallel anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys think about that, but I kind of like the number change myself.
Looks better.
I was surprised that, when gosh, I can't think of his name right now. He wore 27. I can't think of his name.
Matthew Days.
Yeah, Days. Yeah. Really thought that he was going to revert back to 27, and I was really surprised to see him at 24. But no, I definitely like the change, and without the comparison to Jamal Lewis. So.
Right. And then speaking of rushing, Tyrod had himself kind of a rushing day, and I started to see the stats, get thrown up there that I think he's the second most efficient running quarterback right now, still in the league, based on rushing touchdowns. And obviously I didn't hear any Baker calls from the stands. I wasn't at the game. But what do you guys think? Do you think that they were calling for Baker already? Do you think we're going to be hearing that tonight, even early tomorrow morning? Hey, what about Baker Mayfield after Tyrod Taylor's performance?
So I was on Twitter quite a bit throughout the game, and man, it's going to be a bad week for Tyrod Taylor, and it's going to be a bad, I'm going to say it's going to be a bad week for Baker Mayfield, because I think it's going to be hard to ignore all the fans and everybody wanting him, because there was a lot of people that by the second quarter were already calling for him, and
wow.
I really hope that we don't pull a Brown, and we stick to what we said we're going to do, and we keep on riding with Tyrod Taylor. Give him some time. This is game one, and some people were talking. I was just like, it's game one, and to somebody I tweeted specifically, I was like, it's been a quarter and a half, and you already want to pull him. And I was just like, come on. And, everybody not thinking about, well, look at the weather and look at everything that we're dealing with right now. It's who else can, it's probably impossible to throw a ball like that, and under the circumstances and the weather conditions. But no, it is going to be a very, I believe, distracted week in the Browns organization. Now, do I think they handle it well? Yeah, I do. I think Baker does handle it well, and I think Tyrod, uses it ammunition going to a very tough game next week in New Orleans against the Saints. So it'll be crazy to see what goes on.
All right, guys, I'm going to come full circle on this Baker Mayfield thing. I think Chad knows where I stood. I really didn't want him picked in the draft. I wanted Tyrod to play all year. Tyrod, I'm sorry, threw I don't know how many balls were underthrown in this game that could have been caught. Could have been huge plays. The pick was underthrown. Could have been a touchdown if it's thrown deeper. Mm-hmm. There were a couple other passes, I think, especially to Josh Gordon, that could have been touchdowns if they're thrown, where the guy's stopping and coming back for the ball, and then it gets broken up. I don't want Baker to be thrown out there to the Wolves, but I think the way the schedule sets up, the Saints game is tough. Tyrod's going to start there, and then they come back on a short week and play the Jets. Tyrod's going to start there. They're not going to throw Baker in on a short week. If this team's sitting at 0-2-1 and Tyrod keeps underthrowing guys, you're going to see Baker against the Raiders. You can mark it down. And honestly, I'll be all for it because I think we don't really know how much the weather and all that, the rain affected Tyrod throwing the ball. If he couldn't get a grip on it, what the heck, So it's going to depend how he plays these next two games. But I'm telling you, if Baker is not going to be underthrowing these guys, is he going to be perfect? No. But a team like this, with the weapons this team has, with the receivers that can get open, you need a gunslinger. You need a guy out there who can throw the ball to these guys when they're open, and they've got to get it there. So I'm coming around. I don't want Baker in right away, but I think by week 4, there's at least a 50-50 shot that he's out there playing against the Raiders.
Chad, I'm going to jump in front of you real quick. I'm right there with Rod. There was plenty of throws that I saw that I was just like, Baker would have made that throw. I said it more than a handful of times, and I think if Tyrod would have made 50%, at least 50% of the throws that an average quarterback would have made, I think we would have won the game.
I'm with you.
Okay, but you got to remember this, though. Easy Hall of Famer, Big Ben, threw 3 picks in the first half. I know people are going to say they weren't all his fault, but he threw 3 picks. This guy is known for eluding defenses big time. He had a couple times where he flashed that again, but he was getting sacked more than Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor was a pretty good game manager. This was horrible weather, and both quarterbacks played pretty bad. And we got to see how he is next week. I'm not going to put this game on Tyrod Taylor after seeing Big Ben play too. They both know how to play in this weather, and they were horrible. And Big Ben's an easy Hall of Famer. And, we think that the Saints is going to be this really bad game. Did they just lose to the Buccaneers? Ryan Fitzpatrick just went off on the Saints, dude, so hard. I have no idea where that came from. I almost wish that the Browns picked up Ryan Fitzpatrick in the offseason just to play this game. What just happened? 50-year-old Ryan Fitzpatrick. So we got to see what Tyrod does in week 2. I'm just going to call this, wipe this slate blank for Tyrod Taylor and see what happens next week. That's my opinion. I'm not calling for Baker yet, and I'm way bigger of a Baker fan than Rod here. So I'm not calling for Tyrod's head yet. But again, I'll say, I'm with you guys on if he doesn't really step it up by the Raiders game, of course, I'm okay with Baker coming in.
Yeah.
He's a grown man already. He was drafted at 25 years old. And like you said, Sam, he could make some of these throws. But the weather is such a huge factor. We saw those kicks muffed and all sorts of things. I mean, this was a tough game to play in the weather for me.
Baker's going to get 3 games no matter what. I'd be shocked if they would do anything before that Jets game. Or, I mean, even counting the Jets game. They're not going to make a change before then.
I'd like to see them ride him out as long as we traded for him with that 3rd round, and I want to make it clear that I am not. I would love to see Tyrod be successful. I want him to be successful. I want him to be so successful that we sign him to at least a 2-year agreement.
Oh wow!
On extension, because if we've got somebody that's got the experience that Tyrod does, and who doesn't turn the ball over and can manage the clock well, then why not? Why not have that experience? Why do another Browns thing and throw a rookie in there like that? The Bills were getting just their ass kicked. They were at 40. It was at 40-0, and they threw Allen in there, and I was like, why? Like, why would you even do that? Because he was getting sacked, he was getting manhandled. I mean, so automatically he's already starting from behind, and I'm just like, why would you even do that? So I'm really glad that. I don't like Hugh Jackson. I'll make that clear, but I hope that they sit Baker for as long as they see needed, and for what is good for the team, to make sure that he, when we do start him, that he is ready.
I think there's. Yeah. Go ahead. I was just going to say, I think playing Tyrod for at least 3 games gives that offensive line some time to come together and everything too. So. I definitely don't want Baker out there until you feel like the offensive line's in good order. We'll just see what happens. I mean, I think I'm with you guys. I hope that Tyrod looks good in these next couple of games, because I'd be more than happy to see him play most or all of the season. But if he keeps consistently underthrowing our receivers, I don't want him in there. I just don't.
It's a problem.
Yeah, I mean. Here's the other option. I think that would be best case scenario is Tyrod does play this year well. We have a winning season, and I think there's going to be some really quarterback needy teams. And next offseason, if we trade Tyrod and we get a nice return on somebody we just traded a 3rd-round pick for, and we keep wheeling and dealing, I think that would be really, really good and set Baker up for success. You're right, man. Like the whole Josh Allen thing going. This is Deshaun Kaiser 2.0, maybe even worse for the Bills, to see Nathan Peterman play so bad. I kept seeing that Ravens-Bills score come up, and I was like, this looks like, those scores that come up on Saturdays when the big teams play teams you've never heard of before, college teams.
Right.
Like, this is so
Why
bad.
did they trade A.J. McCarron? I don't understand that.
I believe they don't. I felt like they didn't want his contract for what they signed him for. I was like, well, we think that Josh Allen is our future anyway, so let's just go ahead and dump McCarron.
Yeah.
But what's crazy to me too, and I could be wrong, but I believe that they benched Peterman within the second quarter.
I believe it.
It was quick.
By the second quarter, he threw like 17 yards or something. But
it was bad.
It was like, okay, so all right. And by the way, like, I'll say this too, what was just said. I know you said that Hugh, you're not a fan of Hugh, Sam?
I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, the guy that I wanted to be the coach was calling the game, Bruce Arians. Like,
yeah.
Wish this guy. So
he's available.
Yeah, yeah, right. You want to come out of the box? Yeah, but he was saying stuff like, "Oh man, this is comfortable. I like this. I don't like being in the rain. I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to worry about anybody firing me or me losing. This is nice."
Yeah, he's done. He's done coaching.
You say that mindset is out the window, right? So, anyway, moving on. We got to move on to. We saw so much yellow, man. I'm still seeing yellow penalties from Thursday to this game. I don't know. I mean, both these games felt so long with the penalties. What do you guys feel?
So I was watching the Red Zone channel, and then I had the game streaming on my laptop, so I was watching both. The first play of the game that I saw, and I believe that it was the Patriots Houston game, the first play of their game that they had coverage on NFL Network, there was a flag. And I was like, all right, well, buckle up, because this is what it's going to be. Yeah. I get, and I'm all for protecting players, because I love the game of football, and I hope it rides out, and we see it for years and years and years to come, and our children see it. But, I understand the health risks that are involved, but, man, I mean, there was so many penalties today. Like I said, I was watching Red Zone and the game, so I got to see all the games pretty much. But I mean, gosh, there was penalties all over the place. It was absolutely ridiculous. It stops the flow of the game. It throws players off, and it's just crazy. It's just crazy to me. But if that's the way they want to do it, we don't really have a say in that. So
23 penalties for 203 yards between the two teams, and
accepted penalties.
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
right.
I mean, some of them were just flat out a joke. That I think it was an unnecessary roughness penalty on Josh Gordon. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, man. Oh my gosh.
I tweeted. These guys aren't wearing dresses. I mean, let them play. I really thought the last the last two preseason games they seemed to be cutting back on flags. I really thought that the games were going to be a little bit cleaner, that they had gotten their point across in those first two preseason games, and they were going to cut down throwing a flag on every play. But there for a while, it seemed like we couldn't get through two plays in that game without a penalty.
Right.
It just makes for a long game. And, then you're like into the baseball thing of, is the game too long? Are you going to lose viewers because people are just bored by watching all these flags? They need to clean it up. They need to call the penalties that are, endangering the players. Some of these other things that are ticky-tack penalties, they need to just let these guys play.
See, and I saw Myles Garrett's hesitation in the beginning because he got that big penalty when he sacked Ben Roethlisberger, and he put his body weight into him as he dragged him down. And the announcers are like, you just got to push him down and get your body out of the way. And it's like, Myles Garrett has probably been taught to tackle this way his entire life. And so he's just bumming out because he just made, in his mind, his whole life is a clean sack. And then the rest of the game, after the hesitation was over, I saw when he would just go around and he was always targeting Ben's arm. That was it. He wasn't going to tackle Ben. He just went after the ball. It's like, I guess what you're going to do.
Worked pretty well, too, didn't it?
Yeah, it definitely did.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to have to do. I mean, even a guy Myles Garrett's size, now you can't put your body weight on him. What are you going to do? I mean, that's really hard. You just got to go straight up after the arm in midair, and that's all you can do. We are seeing more guys wrap up, more similar to rugby, and not leading with the helmet, which is great. But this is going to take so much time, and we're obviously seeing it game one across the board. Game one's on Sunday. Like you just said, you saw the first play had a flag, the Patriots game. So that's rough, man. You saw the Philly Falcons game where there were bang plays, like Zach Ertz getting hit in the head, and refs aren't calling that. But then you see the replay, and the fans know the new rules, and they start going crazy in the stands because he got hit in the head, but it wasn't called. And it's just going to be inconsistent for a while,
And I think it varies between, the committee of refs. I really do. There were some games saw hits. That Cincinnati game, their safety got taken or got ejected because of a pretty brutal hit on Andrew Luck. And when I saw it, I was like, oh man, that's bad. But then, what they said, they were showing about the different rules changes for this year. And one that really, really struck me was their fourth point that said it is up to the referee's committee discretion to decide if the player inflicting the hit is ejected or not. And I just thought that was crazy, because the play had gone on and they were getting ready. Everybody was lined up on the ball. They called the timeout or not, they stopped the play and they're like, oh, by the way, you're gone, and I just, it's just all this stoppage all of a sudden in break of flow. So, I think that everybody needs to get on the same page because it's really, really disrupting the game. And I know we're only in week one. And, again, like I said, I'm all for safety and everything. But even in week one, like you said, Rod, 22 for over 100 and some. I mean, it's just outrageous. So we have a long, long season ahead.
Yeah, it's going to be a long season. It's going to be a very interesting fantasy season looking at all this. And, speaking of fantasy, let's jump right into that. If you want to talk next week, are either of you guys even thinking about next week's fantasy?
No, I'm still trying to get over our tie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to talk about any Browns that you would play in fantasy next week now that we play the Saints in a away game?
Go ahead, Rod.
I mean, I think the same typical guys around the table. I mean, you have to figure that they're going to try to run with Carlos Hyde, and I still think David Njoku's a playable guy pretty much any week. And Jarvis Landry, Josh Gordon, I wouldn't be afraid to play any of those guys next week.
And I'm going to go out there on a limb and watching the points that were put on the board today. And I don't know much about Tampa Bay's defense, but I would say go ahead and play Browns defense. Why not? It would be cheap in your daily fantasy plays, but then also most likely available on your waiver wire. And I think a really, really good matchup for games that are usually shootouts. I would say play the Browns defense.
As long as they keep creating turnovers and getting sacks, it's not a bad play.
I played him in a couple DFS, events today. I need to go back on and see what they did. I was kind of bummed that they gave up 21 points by the time they did, but they did create all those turnovers. So I think they did make some nice points for me. You got to go back and look. That is going out on a limb, but hey, the Buccaneers, man, I don't know how they pulled off the game they did today. So in a dome,
you never know.
Yeah, the kind of defense that we saw today in the rain. I want to see Denzel Ward, playing on that kind of in that kind of area, and what he'll bring to the table. He'll be able to go full throttle in a dome like that, so that'll be nice. But I'd play Josh Gordon. To see him, he didn't look like he was hamstrung at all. I'll say by the hamstring injury, and he's still big and large and in charge. So I'd play him. I was going to move on here, but you guys seem to still be talking about the game. Any last thoughts that you want to keep on rattling off? Things that you saw, things that you need to get off your chest, things that you know what I mean?
Hey, I was excited just by the number of guys on the defense that made plays.
Yeah.
I mean, Jannard Avery got in there late. With I don't know if it was a forced fumble or a sack. He looked decent. Schobert with that pick play. I mean, we just saw contributions from so many different guys. The pick by Demarius Randall. I mean, we have a center fielder in Cleveland now that plays for the Browns.
That's
I mean,
right.
you have to be excited about the way he tracked that ball and made the catch. Now, his attempt at a return afterwards was not so good, but I love that play. I mean, he was tracking that ball. You knew he had it. And
what are you talking about? His cramp? Are you talking about when he cramped up? Is that what you're talking about? After that,
I'm talking. Yeah. Well, I'm talking about the actual interception, but yeah, I mean the attempt at return, he went exactly the wrong direction, right back into.
Oh, right into AB.
Yeah, right back into AB. We're like, dude, you could have just kept running the way you're running. You probably get 20 yards, but you have to love the pick. You have to love the way he played. We got the fumble return by Peppers. Garrett. Hopefully we see more contributions from like Ogunjobi and some of these other guys. But, man, it just seems like there's a lot of guys on this defense that are ready to make plays. And that's something this defense has lacked for years.
Yeah, you brought up Schobert there, man, and it's so funny. Our Pro Bowler, it's like he found out real quick, I'm just going to stay around Myles Garrett, and I'm going to get the ball that he pops out of people's hands every time. Like, my job is half done now. He's just going to be by Myles Garrett at all times.
We'll see him in line drills next week with the receivers to make sure his hands are up to par.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be catching balls with Landry and all them for sure.
My question would be, what is your all's opinion on Josh Gordon moving forward? Seeing, that Landry got 15 targets today and Gordon only got 3. Yes, there's a lot of other things behind Gordon that, he was coming off late into camp and, whatever injury or whatever he may not have had with his hammies being tight. How do you think, with him normally being our go-to guy, is he going to handle it with Landry obviously getting a lot more looks?
I think that Landry's going to get more looks just because I think he plays more into Tyrod's game, shorter passes. I thought Gordon looked great. I think that he probably doesn't have the chemistry with Tyrod yet, as evidenced by all the underthrows. So maybe that's the issue. Maybe those guys practice some more. Maybe Tyrod will not be underthrowing him. And, maybe it was the weather, but I think Gordon, I don't think he's going to get as many targets as Juice does, but I think he's definitely going to be a huge part of the offense, and somebody that they're going to look to first. And if he's open, go for it. I just don't know how well he fits to Tyrod, in his game. So, I just hope those guys can get some chemistry together, because when you have both of those receivers going, then the offense is it's going to be really tough.
So here's the thing there. Like, I believe I heard this stat last season. Tyrod Taylor threw the second most completions of passes over 20 yards in the entire NFL. So the guy can throw a deep ball. And so I really blame this on the weather today. I don't think we're going to see those underthrows all the time. And it was game one. And so I think what you'll see that kind of touches on what Rod just said, we're going to see Jarvis Landry live between the 20s. Like, that's going to be check down, check down, check down. That's going to be their game. That's what Big Ben was killing us with today when he wasn't throwing interceptions, was we had our safeties way back again, and then they would just check down, throw it right into the gaps. And that's got to be Jarvis Landry's game with Tyrod Taylor, because that's what he's known for. That's what he has created records for, catching 400 receptions like he has in the first 4 years. And then Josh Gordon's going to be his deep threat. And we kind of even saw that today, but like you said, it was 1-1. One interception, terribly underthrown ball, and one right over the DB, right into Josh Gordon's hands for the jump ball. Right. And we even saw him do that really well with Njoku. Njoku kind of pissed me off today, dude, because he kept throwing the ball for him to get jump balls, and he just has a case of the drops, and I'm getting worried about Njoku myself.
Yeah. I was on Twitter, everybody was talking about Juice, how they cut him from the team and how he was just sitting there just laughing, and I think that's been an issue for David Njoku all throughout his career, even down in Miami. So that's something that he has got to be aware of. And I mean, he's aware of it, I would think. And then he has to do something to change it, because he could be such a big threat for us. And, he could become such a Delaney Walker or an Antonio Gates for us, and be such a comfort to Tyrod Taylor to check down to. So that's something that he's really got to work on, and hopefully they can gain some chemistry on that.
I think Njoku will be back. I'm not worried yet. I think it's a week one, playing in the rain and all that crap. So he really looked good in the preseason. So I think we'll see a big bounce back from Njoku, hopefully next week.
It's just the past, I think, that is haunting me. I think about a Braylon Edwards and a Kellen Winslow Jr. and these guys that we've spent very high picks on, first rounders, and they just never panned out. They were amazing in college, amazing talents that should have translated, and just didn't in a Browns uniform. And that's what I'm scared of. But absolutely, he's got the potential to be that Antonio Gates, Delaney Walker factor in our team. I want it to happen so badly. And I just went, man, Tyrod put it 3 or 4 times right in his hands, right in his chest. And that's what really bothered me. I went, man, you got to get that. We would have definitely won, I think, if Njoku had – those were some big plays that he messed up.
I was going to say, those were big-time plays for first downs.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So you brought up Kajus and Njoku and all them on Hard Knocks. We'll move into that as a little segment. Hard Knocks is over, obviously. For me, first things first, I feel like the MVP of Hard Knocks was Todd Haley. Anybody disagree?
I like Greg Williams too.
Yeah,
I do. I'd be scared to see him in an alley. I wouldn't mess with him. But I think the supporting roles that Hugh has, and thank God that he has them, I think they're good. I think they're solid, and I think that's things that we can work off of if and when Hugh Jackson gets fired.
My favorite scene from Hard Knocks, the whole thing, was Myles Garrett, teaching Nate Orchard, working with him on his stances. Obviously, it was too late for Orchard, but just seeing a second-year guy work with a fourth-year guy, and Myles just so much confidence. And, for anybody that thought that Myles Garrett was just this physical freak that really didn't know what he was doing out there, think again. The guy knows exactly what he's doing out there, and that has to scare just the crap out of everybody who's got to try to block him.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah, he's got a high IQ, too. Like, he's a genius, so he really knows the ins and outs of the game, too. And I wouldn't be surprised because the coaches, all the staff has to see the episode before it gets launched. I mean, Nate Orchard had some big plays in the last preseason game he played, and we all thought, like, oh, that's going to be enough to keep him around. And then I wouldn't be surprised if they saw that scene and they're like, well, this guy's taking tips from second-year Myles Garrett, and he's been in the league, twice as long. Don't know if he's cut out for our team. For me, though, speaking of the defensive side, we didn't see any Joe Schobert. Where was Joe Schobert, our one Pro Bowler last year?
There was a number of guys they just didn't even talk about, didn't show. I mean, where was the Desmond Harrison story?
Yeah,
it's like the biggest story on the Browns. They didn't even show him once on Hard Knocks, did they? If they did, I must not have realized it. How do they just skip that? They spent so much time talking, working on Juice and Nate Orchard and Carl Nassib, that they didn't show many other guys.
I don't know. I'm right there with you all. You got to think this is for entertainment, and so I think those guys were entertaining to people, and they knew it, and so they were just going to write it out. But no, there was definitely some stories that I wish I could have seen and got more in-depth details about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was really enjoyable, though. I feel like they could just stay around the Browns every year. That this team is going to have the best storylines every single year. Like, hands down. I didn't see any of the Buccaneers one. I think that was the last one. But I can't imagine that anybody would have the storylines like we would. Maybe they had so many that they couldn't even fit in like a Desmond Harrison one, which is weird. But you know what I mean? Just stay around the Cleveland Browns. I don't see how they leave. Who are they going to go to next year?
Yeah, I think they were just going for the drama. I think they knew that Kajus was a very long shot to make the team, and I think they knew that either Orchard or Nassib would probably be cut.
Yeah, I did watch the Tampa Bay one, and it was not as entertaining as the Cleveland Browns Hard Knocks, but that could be because I'm biased. But at the same time, I'm with you. Why change until, I believe it or not, and whether people want to admit it, I think America wants to see the Browns be good again. And so until that happens and they become a force to reckon with again and be that team that everybody knew them to be, why change?
I think so, too. That's a really good point. And I think you're right. I think that a majority opinion is people want to see the Browns succeed. And they make fun of it. They make fun of last season, 0-16. But we're not the only team to do this. I saw it pop up that they're tied for 6th as the longest losing streak ever. I was like, I thought we were definitely top 2 in the history, but we're tied for 6th. So we could definitely come back from this. The Lions have, the Bills had with Tyrod Taylor. Now they're totally off the rails. But I mean, this can happen for the Browns in a big way, especially with our management. So I like the direction of it. I think that'd be really cool to just brand Hard Knocks, the Browns Hard Knocks, like every year. That's what they should do. That's selfish, but anyway, Rod, I know that you rolled out some Twitter questions. Can you lead us through those? What did people have for us, and how can we jump in and answer them with you?
Yeah, sure. We got several, so we'll go over some of the highlights. First one, guy that we didn't really see much of today is, what do you expect from Antonio Callaway this season? And that's from @Menudo_man.
I don't know. I think he is just a big question mark at this point, whether he continues to stay, straight and, continue to be mentored and follow what Juice Landry has to say. We know that he can be an athlete. We know he has that first round potential, but can he put it all together is the question. I was surprised that we didn't see him more. I was surprised that we saw him above Hollywood, or that Hollywood Higgins was in more than he was from what I saw.
Yeah.
But there was some plays, and especially under the circumstances, I feel like I would have been thrown a little bit shorter and underneath, and I would have used Callaway. But apparently that wasn't the case. So.
Yeah, man, I don't know where he was. That was unbelievable. He was the starter. everybody made this whole huge storyline. He's starting over Josh Gordon. And I'm like, where is number 11? I saw him on a return once, and I didn't see much of him throughout the game. And that's what was really frustrating to me with the play calling for a while. It's like we've got guys like Antonio Callaway, who is Antonio Brown's like best friend or protege, not even doing anything in this game. Njoku, Josh Gordon, Jarvis Landry, and we just could not pull off any big chunk yardage plays on this team. I wanted to see a big play happen by one of those guys, and there were just so many options, including Antonio Callaway, and where was he? Like, just never happened, never clicked, and I'd rather see him be full-time returner instead of Peppers. Like, I'd rather him just completely be in instead of Peppers and see how he does with that game, because he's an extreme athlete and a great runner.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought the Browns kind of almost played this game like a preseason game. Like they went in with this game plan that they were going to run the ball, and they were extremely conservative. I don't know that they ever had a 4 wide receiver set out there the whole game, did they?
I don't think they did. And I don't ever think that they threw on first down either, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll see them, go a little bit more for it next week. That's what I'm hoping.
I think they have to be. They want it, the way that Breeze played today and the way that him and Kamara have such a good chemistry. I mean, the score is going to be high. If they're in the game at all, it's going to be high. So they're going to have to.
Yeah, well, let's move on to our next question. And this is from, ready for this, at Dumpster Diver FF. And this was before the game. So just kind of give your thoughts on this, guys. The question was, is this a backfield by committee, or did Carlos Hyde win the job? Do you guys feel like it's always going to be a split? Are they going to go with a hot hand, or how do you expect the carries to be split moving forward?
Go ahead, Chad.
I feel like Todd Haley's a very creative offensive coordinator, and he didn't tap into Duke Johnson like I thought he would today, and maybe it was because of the weather. So I expect a lot more Duke Johnson. In fact, I'll talk about that when we end in a bit, just about my bold prediction on Duke Johnson for the year. So I think it could be more of a committee, but I think it's going to end up, like Sam said earlier, we're going to end up seeing a lot more of Chubb by, like what you said, week 9, I think. He'll kind of supplant Carlos Hyde, and Duke Johnson will reprise his role. He'll just keep that same kind of smaller version of Le'Veon Bell-ish role, like a Darren Sproles kind of role on our team for Todd Haley to use as a weapon.
Yeah, quickly, yeah. I think that Duke Johnson's role doesn't change, and what we're seeing, the competition is between Nick Chubb and Carlos Hyde. And like I said, I think if that Hyde he ends up winning out the role by week 9. But I think it's great to have Carlos Hyde as your backup. You know what I mean? Why not? So they both run very similar, and I think we finally have a good, strong backfield.
All right, let's go on here. This is from at NJ Kujawa 3. That's NJKUJAWA 3. How quickly do you think Hugh will intervene or interfere in play calling?
I'm going to be honest. I don't even. Something tells me that he made some calls today.
Oh boy,
that's possible.
No, I don't think he's allowed. I don't think he's even allowed. But I think they're like put the heavy hand on him. I would think like no more for you. We brought in Haley.
I don't know though. I mean, you saw how it was on Hard Knocks. How he made that statement. This is my team, and I'm gonna. You are gonna answer to me, and we're gonna do it my way. Well, I bet he was pretty frustrated today, as was everyone who watched the game, and I bet there were some calls where he had some tension between Todd Haley, and he was like, "No, we're gonna do it this." So.
All right, one more. It's a 2-parter, and it's from at the Clee Fan 295. First part is, how much longer will Hugh be around, and what impact will Todd Haley have? And the second part, totally unrelated, is how much does having a real receiving core help Tyrod Taylor be more successful than he was in Buffalo? And of course, we're throwing out today's game based on the weather.
I think the receiving core that Tyrod Taylor has is fantastic, and I wouldn't want any other one. You've got a great slant guy, you've got a deep threat, you've got the potential of a fantastic tight end, and you've got guys that you can throw down to the backfield. I don't see how it gets any better. Honestly, I don't. So I think he should be a lot more successful than he was in Buffalo, instead of just relying on Shady McCoy. And with Hugh and Todd Haley, I was really high on Todd Haley until today, and questioning his play calling today. I don't know how long will Hugh stick around. I have no idea why John Dorsey. Not John Dorsey. Why? Gosh, what are the Haslam stick beside him? I don't know. So that question is definitely up in the air. So.
Well, let's play like an over/under on that because I don't think we have yet. How many games does Hugh have to lose until he's kicked out? He gets the boot.
So are we talking in a row or are we talking total?
In a row, yeah.
I think if he loses 3 games in a row, he's gone. I mean, it will Cleveland, Browns. Oh my gosh, I would be furious.
So by the Raiders game, he's gone.
If we were 0-3, yeah, I would. Yeah.
If you're counting today as a loss, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know what to call this one. Maybe they give him. Yeah, maybe they give him till week 4. Then they give him the Raiders game.
Kind of like a bye. Yeah. And then the Raiders. Yeah. If he loses all the way up through the Raiders game, yeah, the Raiders game is an expected win. Let's just say that.
But it's like you said, guys. Like we don't know how to feel right now. We don't know to feel better. I don't feel better than the start of or the end of last season. I don't feel better. Yes, I see potential there, but am I like, man, we really no, because there were so many mistakes in so many different categories that I figured and thought that we had learned from. Yeah, this was the first game of the season, but come on.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, we're the Cleveland Browns. We went 0-16, so all we sky's the limit. So any type of improvement should make us feel better. Do I feel that way right now? No, I don't.
But don't both of you guys come out of this game feeling like both the offense and the defense are really better than last year?
Oh, yeah. There's no excuse for Tyrod Taylor. If he was able to take that Bills team to the playoffs, I mean, he has like quadruple the talent on the Browns right now than he did with the Bills. So he definitely has to step it up. But this is, on Hugh, I think they give him – and I hope it doesn't get to this. I think they'd give him through the Raiders game. He used to coach the Raiders. He wants that game. He better have some motivation to get there. That was the last time he was a successful NFL coach. He went 8-8. So I would think he gets through the Ravens game, week 5. And then if he doesn't win that Ravens game, he's definitely gone, and that's very frustrating. I hope it doesn't happen. I don't expect it to happen. I expect us to get some wins here in the next couple weeks. So I just wanted to see where you guys were at with that.
Yeah, I always felt like he had to win 2 of the first 5, and I'm just not sure what this first game is. So maybe it's 2 out of the next 5.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Do I think that the Browns are better than last? Yeah, I think our defense has all types of potential to be a top 10, even top 5 defense. I really do.
Yeah.
Now, am I glad that we finally have a very good established wide receiver that showed out today in Jarvis Landry? Yeah. Do I think it's going to be great and for Tyrod Taylor? Yeah, I do. But the rest of the offense has got to get going, and we've got to gain some chemistry. Mm-hmm. It can be, because by week 2, you know who they're going to target, the defense. They're going to stop Jarvis Landry. Hopefully that opens up a door for Higgins or somebody else or Gordon to really shine. But I'd like to where we get to the point where everybody's like, man, well, there's so many weapons on Cleveland's team. We just have to be prepared all the way around. And I don't feel like we're there yet.
Yeah, and if I'm the defense, if I'm Joe Schobert, Denzel Ward, especially Myles Garrett today, forcing all these turnovers, especially in the first half, and I'm down by halftime, and I tie this game, it's like you look at the stats, you look at the way the defense just went off on this team today, the Steelers offense, there's no way we should have lost. If you look at that on paper, it makes no sense that our offense couldn't have pulled this off. So that was frustrating.
True. Very, very true.
Anyway, let's move on to some segments here, guys. Let's move on to Thrive or Dive. Thriving or Diving is brought to you by Thrive Fantasy. Thrive Fantasy is the DFS app that lets you rack up fantasy points in your contest by picking player props. For example, say you take the over at a line of 0.5 on Josh Gordon scoring a touchdown. If you get it right, your team receives the points allotted to that correct prop pick. NFL contests are now in the lobby. Thrive has $15,000 in guaranteed prizes up for grabs, and they are offering a $50,000 prop challenge free roll. Select all 25 of 25 props correctly, and you win big. Use our link, bit.ly/Cleveland Sports Talk. That's bit.ly/Cleveland Sports Talk to start playing on iOS, Android, or website today and receive an instant deposit match up to $10. We'll see you in the lobby. Keep the tempo up for a second and then bring it back down.
Well, I will use today's game. I have never been, in my 29 years of life, I have never been more excited about a Browns season opener than today. I was so excited about it. My Twitter was blowing up. It was Go Browns. It was huge today. We were all so excited. It felt like Christmas morning. Yeah. And my dive is when, you get to that second quarter and it's 21-7 and people are already calling Baker's name. So we are already willing to revert back, forgetting everything that we just went through with Hard Knocks, John Dorsey, a great offseason, all these different acquisitions and additions that we made to our team, and we're already back to calling off and, wanting to throw out our quarterback and just move forward. It just kills me. It just kills me.
For me, thriving is the Denzel Ward pick at number 4. That is in the NFL draft, not the picks today. He had 2 picks today. I'm using the word pick too many different ways here. But anyways, the Denzel Ward pick at 4, people question it. It wasn't reach. The guy had 2 interceptions. He played great against Antonio Brown. The touchdown to Brown, it was just a perfect pass and a perfect catch. He was right there with good coverage. The guys, and even his picks were just very athletic. You almost want to put the guy in at wide receiver every once in a while when he's making catches like that. So that's my thrive, man. Just so glad that they took him at 4 based on today's performance. My dive is James Conner's haircut.
Oh, that's a good one. What is that?
Where in the world? I don't know what he was going for there. It just seems like something gone terribly wrong, and I just hope to heck he didn't pay more than $150 for that haircut.
It looks like it'd be sweet if he just shaved the rest of it off of the back. I'm like, what? I don't know what's going on here. Like, the front looks sharp and, like, really fly, and then the back, he just left it be. I'm like, what in the world? So I was saying the same thing out loud, man. And then with Denzel Ward, he went to the same high school as me. We've said that a couple times on the podcast, but I keep plugging it. Me and Nicholas Padone of Cleveland Sports Talk.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm a couple years ahead of him for sure. I'm about to turn 27, so I'm quite a bit older than him. I didn't meet him, but Nick Padone, who's also a Cleveland Sports Talk Network guy, he does the Hotline 216 podcast with us. He was in the grade beneath Denzel Ward, I believe. So he says he's a real humble kid, and he comes right from, obviously, like where I grew up, Macedonia, Ohio, right here in Northeast Ohio. So pumped to see him get 2 picks today. That's a good one, Rod. Obviously, we had the tie today, but a blowout yesterday on Saturday. The Buckeyes are amazing right now, and we hope that they keep having an amazing season. The Haskins era has begun. That's my thrive. This dude throws a pretty ball, man. And what an amazing thing that he called his shot at 11 years old. They show that video. I'm coming here to play college ball. What position are you going to play? Quarterback.
Also, still wearing the same jersey number as well.
Same jersey number. That was, dude, chills. I just got chills again because you said that.
Wow.
That's so crazy. And then obviously on the other side of that is Michigan just disappointing the whole Big Ten. I don't know what the Big Ten's going to do with Michigan and John Harbaugh, man. They are disappointing big time past couple years here. And I would also throw in that whole MGK Eminem beef that was going on for a bit. I think that I don't even know. I feel like that's a dive more than a thrive. I don't know if you guys heard about that.
There's always some beef between Ohio and Michigan. Always.
For real. So that's our thrive or dive. Next segment. We're starting this one because Ticket IQ just started working in affiliation with us. And we're going to do a new segment, Rod and Sam, called IQ Test. So this is brought to you by Ticket IQ. And we're going to present our bold predictions on the season for the Browns. And then we're all going to grade whoever just gave their bold prediction, that you're a lunatic or you're a genius. IQ Test is brought to you by Ticket IQ. Ticket IQ has been featured in the New York Times, ESPN, Forbes, and more, and is one of the best ticket marketplaces to look up tickets for events before purchasing them. Priding themselves on their user-friendly website, it is easy to find the best deals for all sporting and music events. Also, IQ Access delivers curated and exclusive offer events like meet and greets, family nights, and VIP access. You'll want to get those alerts directly from teams. That's how it works. Check out Ticket IQ today.
Man, talking to you earlier this week, it was that they were going to beat the Saints on the road. And after watching today's, I'm kind of questioning that. But you know what? I'm going to stick to it. And I'm going to say that our Browns learned a lot from this game. And I think they can take a lot away from this game. And I'm going to say that they win on the road by a field goal.
Wow.
Yeah, before today, I would have called that lunacy, but with the Saints getting beat by the Bucs and the way the Browns defense particularly played today, I'm going to go with genius.
So I was talking to Sam earlier in the week, and he was saying that the Saints Drew Brees is historically bad against the Browns, like pretty bad against the Browns, right? You said?
Well, not necessarily against the Browns, but just he takes
early on.
3 to 5 weeks to really get going, and that's just because he's burned me so many times on fantasy. So, but he had a good day today. I mean, he threw for 3 touchdowns. So, I don't know, but history, going off history, yes, he takes a couple weeks to really, really get going. And obviously, I think that the Cleveland Browns are a lot better than Tampa Bay. I mean, I'll go out and say that, especially their defense, if I'm going to say, go out on that limb. So I think that the look that Drew Brees gets this upcoming week is definitely going to be different and more of a struggle for him. We will really, really have to figure out a way to stop Alvin Kamara. I think he scored 3 touchdowns today, so 2 passing and 1 rushing. So we've really, really got to figure out a way to stop him, but then that opens up the door for Michael Thomas. So it'll definitely be a challenge and should really, really test the Cleveland Browns defense against a really, really good high-powered offense. So potentially high-powered offense.
I had Michael Thomas up in fantasy today. Very excited about that. Had Kamara up in a bunch of DFS plays. So I gotta go back and check those out. And Ward versus Michael Thomas will be very fun.
Mm-hmm.
The Buckeyes match up. So,
yep.
And here's the other thing. Drew Brees has a 3-3 career record against the Browns. And last time they met, they lost 26-24 in 2014.
Wow.
Well, then you also got that drama, too, when Joe Thomas was trying to decide whether he was going to come back or not. And, not that anybody really thinks about this anymore. I do. But how Joe Thomas was trying to recruit him so bad. Why he trying to say, hey, let's make your legacy even greater and let's have you change one of the worst organizations ever, one of the worst teams ever in the NFL season and make them something great. So we've got that to think about. Like I said, probably a lot of people aren't going to remember that, but I definitely do. So
nice. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to walk in there. I'm going to say genius with Rod because of the stats I just pulled up. He has historically not been great. He's just 3-3 against us, and we won last time in 2014, and we're obviously a much better football team than then. So, Rod, what about you? What's your bold prediction for IQ test?
All right, let's see what you guys think. I'm going to say that the Browns sent 8 players to the Pro Bowl this year.
Wow.
8? Has that ever happened before?
I don't know. And I couldn't even tell you. I kind of counted up to where I thought it was possible for 8 guys to go. Don't even ask me which 8 they are now, but that's my crazy bold prediction right now.
That's lunacy, man. That's what?
Lunacy?
Who? Who are the 8?
Let's see. Batonio, Gordon, Juice, potentially Njoku, and then on the defense would be Garrett, Schobert, and let's see. I know I counted some other guys.
You're at 6.
Yeah, you're at 6.
6. I thought that was okay. Yeah, 2 more would be. I mean, it could be Demarius Randall potentially, or Denzel Ward. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see either one of those guys make the Pro Bowl.
I would say that
I was going to say I may have been thinking about Hyde too.
Okay. I'm going to go with lunacy as well, and I would say, gosh, I'd be damn happy if we got 5.
Yeah, 5. Yeah,
I would too.
I would say 5 of those, 5 or 6 of those is realistic. 8, that's crazy. That'd be amazing, though. Oh man, if all those guys made it. All right, so I didn't mean to offend you, Rod. You're not a lunatic, but.
No, when I started thinking of 8 again, I'm like, man, who was I counting? But I mean, you don't know. I mean, it's early in the season. You know, guys like Ogunjobi or Jannard Avery or even Ogba. Any one of those guys could emerge over the course of the year or two. So I just think the way this defense plays, I think they're going to have a number of stars, and I think that the offense could be true. You know, the same thing could happen, that we could potentially have 3 or 4 guys on each side of the ball that just really put up some numbers this year.
Yeah, definitely. What do you got for us, Chad?
All right, here we go. So I got to check out Duke Johnson's injury because he got a little banged up at one point this game. I think he was fine, but I got to check this out. But my bold prediction before this game was that Duke Johnson will easily be the number 1 running back in receptions this year and reception yards.
I agree with that. Definitely, I agree.
So you're going genius?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I like him. I mean, he's obviously done very well with the receptions every other year of his career. The only question mark there is just the number of targets he'll get on this offense with all of the other players that they have to go to. So I would think it's probably genius, but we'll just have to see, because they really have to use him right. They really got to put him out there in the right situations and not in situations where everybody knows, hey, Duke's on the field, they're going to Duke, cover Duke.
Yes. But that means he has to beat guys like Gurley, Barkley, David Johnson, Alvin Kamara, tons of guys like that. He's got to beat them in receptions and yards. That's going to be tough.
It's not going to be an easy task this year at all.
No, definitely not.
So that's where I'm at, and that has been brought to you by Ticket IQ. Sam, can you just hit us up, man? Tell all the listeners out there, where are your projects at? Who do you work with? Who do you partner with? And where can people find you on Twitter? Everything that we can know before we let you go.
So my handle is at the Sam Mad, and I work with Big Play Sports, and the founder of that is Big Davey Mack. And they're just a great company. I don't get funded for anything that I do. It's just more of a hobby, which I like because I don't have the pressure of making sure that I'm getting stuff done with projects or anything like that. So they're a very huge company. They started out with making an app, and they just wanted to have an app that was different than Bleacher Report and different than ESPN, and get your score updates and notifications and other big sports news. And so they have just really broken out from there and really done well for themselves. They've got a lot of good sponsors, and there's a lot of good guys on the Big Play team. And so we're just looking to get everybody the sports information that they want and make sure that we're doing it better than everybody else. So
right on. Shout out to Davey Mack. Rod, any last words today, man?
2 quick shout outs. We did our first live pregame show with CST, Zach and I and Nick and Jack. I was on there for a portion of it. They did like 2 hours total. I was on for about 20 minutes. We had a pretty darn good response. Very happy. It was really cool. And I think we're going to try to do that going forward. So instead of listening to the radio, throw that on. The other thing is the second article in my series about the Browns backers clubs came out today. And I was talking about the Texas capital area Browns backers. Had a great talk with their president, John, and just having a great time with that. I just want to thank those guys, and it's pretty cool to see what these backers groups are doing.
Cool, man. Yeah, we've got to get that pregame show on video. We've got to make it look like what Big Play does. They get like, it makes it look like a studio in the background, and they do like, It looks like they're on ESPN. That'd be cool to have as like a pregame show. So
we'll have to see about that.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah, we got to take some tips from them. So now we've got the hookup with Sam here, right?
That's right.
Cool.
Well, I want to take the time and thank both Chad and Rod for letting me on the Brownie Sunday podcast, and it was a great opportunity and definitely great connecting with you guys and networking, and we all want the same thing, and that's for the Browns to come out victorious. So hopefully this is the start of something great. And again, thanks for the opportunity, and had a great time with you guys today.
Thanks, Sam.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Sam. And we hope that the Browns pull out a new trick play next week, like the Philly special, and call it the Brownie Sunday.
There you go.
Yes.
So take that, Todd Haley. Hey, this has been the Brownie Sunday podcast. Cheers.